Well, hello there. Welcome to the Deadly Analysis Podcast. I'm here with one of my co-hosts, Black Phillip, and we're going to recommend a horror book for you today. Now, up until this point, we've mostly covered movies in this podcast, but it's becoming progressively harder to ignore the world of horror literature, which I find myself enjoying more and more frequently, particularly Lovecraftian-style modern horror, which brings me to the book I want to talk about today, which is The Croning by Laird Barron. This is a wild book. It starts with basically a retelling of the entire Rumpelstiltskin story, a much darker version of the story, I might add. This will serve as a very interesting backdrop for the rest of the book, which actually takes place in the modern day. And so The Croning tells the story of Don Miller, a geologist, and his wife Michelle, who is an anthropologist. A very interesting anthropologist, by the way. She has a fascination with lost cultures and tribes, hidden history, hollow earth theory, her family's dark lineage, bunch of fun stuff like that. Basically, take all of the fun, amazing things that you hear on the show Coast to Coast AM at like 3 in the morning, and those are all of the things that she's into. And so the book jumps between present and past, and you get the sense that while this is happening, that Don's memory, the main character, his memory has some gaps in it. Gaps that Barron will exploit in what I think is a masterful way to keep you intrigued. So Don's wife, Michelle, the Coast to Coast AM anthropologist, let's say, she begins to behave in some very strange and unusual ways that I won't go into, but you start to get the idea that something's off in the Miller home. What I really liked about this book is that it utilizes tension really well. The tension between Don and Michelle and maybe what she's up to, her intentions mixed with Don's rationalist approach to the world, where everything has to be orderly and make sense, that's going to be a core of the lot of dread for you as a reader. The distinction between Don and Michelle, the way they interact, their very different mindsets, and what is ultimately happening between them as the book progresses. There's a certain point in this book where I just sort of wanted to throw water on Don's face and slap him. Like, it sort of becomes clear to the reader, or at least it did to me at a certain point, that Don is oblivious to certain things that are going on with his anthropologist wife. That should be, like, very obvious, little red flags going off that should be making him think very differently, but he doesn't, and it's very frustrating, and it's done on purpose. So Don is a very frustrating and very naive character, whereas Michelle is a very sly and put-together sort of character. And the Lovecraftian part of this book plays on elements of prehistory, the void, a kind of in-between of realities. I felt similarities in this book to films like Event Horizon and maybe even Hellraiser to a certain extent. Not the violence or the body horror or sci-fi stuff, but just like The Other and what's behind the curtain, the void dimension of chaos and darkness. Very Warhammer 40K-ish, but without like the sci-fi apparatus strapped to it. Strip all that away, that sci-fi stuff, and you have The Croning. Fantastic Lovecraftian style read, in my opinion. It is super tense. And when the shoe drops and you finally understand what's going on in the book, it's pretty mind-blowing. So definite recommend. I hope you found this video informative. You should read this book if you're a fan of Lovecraft, or listen to it on Audible like I did. It was amazing. And if you've read The Croning, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about the book. If you also have any Lovecraftian-style books that are within the last 30, 40 years that you want to recommend, I would love to know what those are. Help me expand my list. That'd be great. So thank you for watching, and let me know your thoughts on The Croning.